Hoki mai anō. We welcome Mils Muliaina back from commentary. Millsy, what a test match, first and foremost. A fantastic test match for you to be able to call. Just wasn't the result that the All Blacks were wanting. What did you see in that 80 minutes?
You're absolutely right. I mean, both sides went out there and they played, right? And there were big moments in the game, and that's why it came down to 1 point. You know, obviously from a New Zealand perspective, you're disappointed with the loss, but I think there's massive, I suppose, positives from it. The big thing for me really was probably just out of the break, where France came out and scored 14 unanswered points. That was probably the breaker because it then put the All Blacks on the back foot. But man, what a test match! What a test match! Yeah,
that was brilliant. Let's catch up with the head coach of the All Blacks, Scott Robertson, live in Paris about that All Blacks performance.
Razor, that'll be a hard one to digest. Early thoughts?
Awesome first half. We just needed a couple more rucks or a couple more passes to probably put them a couple of scores out front. And then that start of the first half, they got that 14-pointer. Will Jordan catches that, but they go in the corner and score off not even a missed tackle. And those are the ones, and then the crowd come alive, and we knew they were going to have a couple of moments, and they took them, and Ramos kept them ahead.
A lot of positives, though, Razor. Like, honestly, it was impressive the way you played. And you had to work your way through some adversity. You lost Samipini early, you lost Geordie as well, so the team has to adapt and you have to change your strategy a bit. So you must be pleased with the way the boys did that and stayed in the fight.
Yeah, I'm pleased, but Test footy comes down to, as we know, all this year, just a little bit of a moment. And, we'd pride ourselves on how much work we'd had, game management, game understanding, our discipline to win those. Played a lot of footy, but you've got to execute and win those key moments, and we just didn't do enough tonight.
72nd minute, kick for the corner, kick for goal. Is that something they decided on the field?
Yeah, look, I'll talk to Scott a little bit more about it, but it's just cool.
And they're hard decisions, and this young side need to learn those. But Peter Lakai comes on early, unbelievable.
Yeah, exceptional, wasn't it? I'm really looking forward to watching the game again and watching him in a little bit more detail. Look, I'm really pleased for him. He's a future as well. And look, there's some great performances out there from a lot of guys. Look, I'm really pleased. And we just wanted to go and have a Northern tour. Everyone, goes, okay, they're here. We've still got little things to work on. Yeah.
But again, you look forward to next week, don't you? And you build on this. And I know you're hurting, mate. I know you really wear this, but the country's behind you. You've got to go forward, because what we saw out there today was a real trend in the right direction. And man, they're never easy here, are they? They're pretty parochial, and they're a pretty good side.
Yeah, look, like I said before, I'm really proud of all their efforts and stuff. It's just a mixture, areas that we need to get better with decision making, and the game swings. Refs call sometimes, and then that's footy. You just got to be better than that. Yeah. Thank you,
mate.
Thanks for taking the time, mate.
Cheers,
Thanks a lot.
Razor, summing up what he thought of that All Blacks 80-minute performance. Interesting that he talked about decision-making, and he mentioned the fact that he will talk to his captain, Scott Barrett, afterwards. That was a strange comment, Batesy.
Yeah, I think so. 70, and the beauty about that is hindsight's a wonderful thing. Like, now that they've lost by a point, it's easy for me to sit here and say, I should have tapped and go, should have done a scrum, something like that. But the players are out there in the moment. And also, what would happen if we'd got into the French half and we kicked a penalty in the last minute? It would have been a wonderful decision. So it's a really tough decision for Scott on the field. And he obviously backed this decision. They went as a player group, they went for it. And you got to back your skip.
Yeah, at the end of the day, do you actually talk about these things off the field, Mills, or is that left with the on-field captain? He's made that decision.
I think there's a group of them that would have ended up, but you've got to get a feel of the moment, right? And we talk about moment, and I'm talking about the other Scott, the coach, Scott Robertson. What you're getting from that is they care. They knew they had an opportunity to win this. And you think about the pressure of the whole kind of year, he probably feels the fact, man, this was the game that we could have won, and there's incidents of and so when they go and digest it a bit later on, the heat's out of it. This is based on emotion. And what I love about the fact is they care about the fact that they could have won there and decisions that could have possibly been made. But you're absolutely right. When you're out there in the courtroom and you've got to make decisions, essentially that's on the captain to make that final call, and Scott Barrett did that.
He just mentioned two things, decision making and the influence of the referee. Now, in the final 10 minutes of that game, there were a couple of instances where the TMO, or voice of God, was able to interfere with that game. Mills, can you talk us through what actually was going on?
Oh, well, this is atrocious to me, in my opinion. The fact that it was called a neck roll. I mean, yes, low, but he hasn't rolled in there. Someone else has gone, and even here, okay, he's got another call there for a dangerous roll over the ball. But in the heat of the moment, when you've got less than 10 minutes to go in the game, and the TMO's coming in with intervention, that's not what you want. And particularly with some those two calls that were really hairy-fairy, and you've got the benefit of time when you're sitting in the TMO because you're not in there with the referee. So it's not on the referee, right? You've got the benefit of time to have a look again and make those decisions as a TMO.
I agree with you. I don't think it really matters what time of the game it is, minute 1 or minute 80, but the decision has to be correct. And the thing that worries me about, especially that offer one, if that's a penalty, we're going to have about 80 penalties a game. So, all we want, we say this time and time again, is consistency around this. So if this one here's a penalty, holy shivers, man, we better get some better 3-point kickers because there's going to be a lot of kicking.
You've used some good language, mate. Shivers. Shivers means all right. And then here as well, I mean, that's inviting the All Blacks back into the game, and vice versa the other way around. So, gee, I tell you what, Batesy, holy shivers, all right, mate?
Shivers is a good word for a Sunday, and I'm glad you used shivers instead
God's
of
day, Kirst, you've got to behave yourself.
Just shivers.
The All Blacks had their chances, though, didn't they, Aaron? And we're going to see a number of moments where they just didn't execute.
Yeah, absolutely. And listening to Razor, that's what he spoke about, executing and winning key moments under pressure in test matches. And the All Blacks just didn't quite do that. And there was a period in the second half where, it seemed like they were creating opportunities, but then all of a sudden would just force something. And then that just invited the French to either get the ball back or defensively, I guess they were just releasing a little bit of the pressure valve. So, this is, I guess, in a way, while it's hard right now, as Mills has just said, when there's a lot of emotion around it, it's hard to accept those things. But I think when you digest it all, you can use these as great learning opportunities.
Basically, when we were watching the game together, you talked about entries into the opposition 22, but the All Blacks just weren't converting those into points.
Yeah, and you look on the flip side, the French, they had one entry in the first half, I think, and they scored that first try. Straight away in the second half, they do a little trick maul play around the front and they score a try. But so off the back of what Cruds is saying there, I felt like we got into the 22 and then after about 5 phases, we felt like we need to do a miracle ball or something like that. And I think there's a difference between the two. There's a difference between a drop pass, that's skill execution, and that happens, you know what I mean? But there's also a difference between that and, I'm going to hit Millsy, that's a 70-30, but I'm going to throw it anyway. I think there's a difference between the two. But yeah, we didn't convert, as I said right at the start, the beauty about that is I'd rather create opportunities and miss them than create nothing, because then there's something wrong with your attack.
Yeah, fine line, isn't it, too, Chris? I mean, they're almost on the button, but you're right. You almost feel that pressure the longer you hold on to it because it's really static ball, and that's when you're forcing things. And I think that's what the All Blacks would be disappointed about. The longer they had onto the ball and it was static, the more options for them to go, hey, well, I'm just going to throw it to someone else and let's do a miracle ball, and that's where they lost possession.
Well, here is something to celebrate. How about Peter Lakai, who was supposed to be on the bench today, started on the bench but came onto the field in the second moment, just his second ever test match. He's standing by with our team in Paris.